And we are ready to go. So, uh, one more thing before we get started. Good morning, afternoon. Glad that you're joining us here today for our final roundtable at the Academic Council of the United Nations System Conference. We have a super treat today. We have literally a two-for-one situation. You are here for the roundtable, Beyond On Track and Off Track, Reframing Sustainable Development through Trajectory-Based Analysis of the Sustainable Development Goals. But you're also going to get a good grounding in running towards the future, youth, civil society, and new pathways for global engagement. So before we even begin, I want us to literally ground ourselves in what we talk about when we talk about running towards the future. And that is literally running. I have here my first 5K medallion from a race I ran in Reno. And let that symbolize when we talk about running for the future, we're talking about with our feet on the planet and running towards the future. So we're talking about athletic events in 193 UN member countries, all to create awareness of sustainable development goals. We'll talk more about that, but running for the future definitely means running for the future when we speak of running. But to further get us grounded in what we're talking about with running and how we fit in with our data analysis with the Sustainable Development Goals, I want to do a little screen share with you. We're going to break out in a organic roundtable, and we're just going to turn everything off and just go into conversation about what this all means. But let's just take a moment to screen share and see what the heck we're talking about when we talk about grounding ourselves. This is our website, which is issnow.earth. And thanks to Google, Google has been good to us, and we've enjoyed being a Google for nonprofit. And our website has served us well. And we have organized our global race for sustainability, those 5Ks, 10Ks, full half marathons, family fun runs in 193 UN member countries through this site and through the help of some third-party race platforms. But now, in the age of emerging technologies, etc., this is now what our legacy site looks like. We are not just a website. We're not just a platform. We're a whole ecosystem with multiple, lots of architecture out there that we've built on. We have an internship program that we've had for 4 years now, although our organization has started in 1998. So we've been around for quite some time. We are a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 NGO, if you will. Currently, we have 187 active interns in our internship program this summer cohort from 126 different universities. And if we look and we do a little filter search on those numbers, we'll see that 155 of those interns are currently data analysts who are crunching numbers on the sustainable development goals, the trajectory, where we are, how is humanity doing. So you definitely want to keep an eye on what's happening with this group. Our research is designed in 4 cohorts. So we've had our first cohort last semester, excellent baseline. And now we're on our second cohort, and we have 2 more to go. 4 semesters, basically. We're 2 semesters in, 2 semesters more to go. our research thesis, how we're all moving together in a group, so to say. Our research thesis is, while headline Sustainable Development Goal reporting focuses on whether targets will be fully achieved by 2030, a trajectory-based analysis of SDG indicator data reveals that humanity has made substantial progress, measurable progress, accelerating progress across all 17 Sustainable Development Goals since 2015. Progress that is systematically underrepresented in binary on-track, off-track measurements. The ISS research program exists to surface, document, and communicate this progress to the world. So we're looking at things every day, and we're looking at the indicators, and we're hoping to look at things in a different way and report back to you all what we find out. Another of our platforms is literally the Global Race for Sustainability that seeks to create awareness of Sustainable Development Goals and involve participants in all 193 UN member countries. So just want to call that attention to you at the end. I'm sure we'll put the race site into, or the race platform into the chat so that you can join the race as well. And with that grounding, I want to stop screen share and let's just jump right on into our roundtable. I want to start with introductions. Now, just to clarify, my screen is now long gone. Am I right, Richard? Long gone. Okay. All right. So, now that we've got a good grounding, let's go ahead and start our roundtable discussion with a simple observation. And that observation is that most people, when you think about global cooperation, picture the United Nations General Assembly, and they picture diplomats in formal suits, negotiating treaties and conference rooms. They picture institutions, but institutions don't act on their own. Behind every international agreement, behind every SDG target, behind every resolution passed in New York or Geneva, there are communities, there are students, and there are volunteers. There are young people who decide what world problems are worth their time. And that is what this session is about today. Over the past year, hundreds of undergraduates and graduate students participating in the International Sibling Society Internship Program have been exploring exactly these themes. Through our Global Race for Sustainability, an initiative designed to engage participants from all 193 UN member states through virtual participation, community engagement, and SDG-focused education, our interns have been asking the fundamental question: how do we make global goals feel real to real people? And in their research discussion, one theme has emerged with striking consistency, and that is the desire to connect academic work to tangible, on the ground impact. As ISS intern Gaurang Da Akur noted in our discussion forums on our platform, he says the biggest value is seeing how we work during our internship and how it connects to larger global conversations. It helps him realize, or helps me realize, he says, that our internship work is part of a bigger picture, our bigger effort to address global issues and create meaningful change. Well, today I'm joined by 5 remarkable young scholars and practitioners I'd like to introduce to you. First is Richard Downey from California State University in Sacramento. Second is Dong Fu Nguyen from James Madison University. We then have Musa Jumbabaikov from National Lewis University, Jennifer Yang from University of Minnesota, and Ryan Elyasti from Duquesne University, who are all actively working at the intersection of data, community engagement, and global governance. Together, we're going to explore how civil society can strengthen multilateral cooperation and what role youth should play in advancing the Pact for the Future, and then what lessons grassroots initiatives can offer to international community. So, we're ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Well, let's do it. Actually, Ryan, why don't we go with you? We'll start with you.
Right.
So if the global race for sustainability is built on the beautiful, simple idea that running which is of course one of the most universal human activities, it can connect people across borders in support of the Sustainable Development Goals. Ryan, how can grassroots initiatives like this help translate high-level UN agendas into something that actually feels meaningful to local communities?
Thank you, Cynthia. That's really the central challenge, isn't it? The SDGs are extraordinary in their ambition. 17 goals, 169 targets, a framework designed to address nearly every dimension of human well-being. But when you present that to someone in their daily life, it can feel overwhelming, or worse, irrelevant. Grassroots initiatives work because they meet people where they are. In our ISS internship discussions, we talked a lot about this disconnect between global framework and lived experience. As my peer Arman Shadev pointed out in our forums, it's easy to get caught up in the technical side of building dashboards and cleaning data sets without fully understanding why it matters on a global scale. That observation applies far beyond data work. It applies to anyone who has ever looked at a UN document and wondered what it has to do with their neighborhood, their school, their family. The global race for sustainability answers that question with action. When someone laces up their shoes and runs for SDG 3, good health and well-being, or SDG 13, climate action, they are not just reading a policy brief. They are physically participating in a global movement. They are making a personal commitment. They are connecting their body, their community, and their values to a shared global agenda. That is how you make the abstract tangible.
Well put, well put. Well, Richard, I want to build on what Ryan just said. Let's move into talking about civil society, uh, organizations like ours, NGOs. So, civil society organizations like ISS operate very differently from intergovernmental institutions. They can move faster, experiment more freely, and reach communities that formal institutions just simply miss. So, Richard, how do you see civil society organizations functioning as laboratories for innovation and global governance?
Well, thank you, Cynthia. So I think that's a really great way to frame it, like an analogy. That's that's the way I would try to see it too. It's the way it works is it's kind of like laboratories for innovation. So large multilateral institutions, they're built for stability and consensus, and while there is a lot of value in that, that's good. But it also means that they move slowly and they're often cautious about trying new approaches before there is broad agreement. Uh, on the other hand, though, civil society doesn't really have that constraint. So what that means is we can pilot new models of engagement, test them in real communities, learn from what doesn't work, and refine what does. So in our ISS forums, we have discussed this dynamic extensively. And as my colleague Xander Junko noted, the real need here is to understand how technical expertise can be translated into practical solutions that support sustainable development international cooperation, and effective governance. And with that, that translation work from technical knowledge to practical community impact is exactly what civil society does best. We figure out what works at the local level, and during the entire process, we document anything that happens or anything unexpected we encounter, and then those lessons can inform broader multilateral strategies for future stages. Uh, the perfect example with that is the global race. It started as an idea. What if we used running to build SDG awareness across every UN member state? So that is the kind of idea that would take years to navigate through a formal institutional process. But as a civil society initiative, we could simply build it, launch it, and learn from the entire process and results. That agility is one of civil society's most valuable contributions to global governance. It is essentially about how we can immediately test run methods of global governance engagement.
And that's exactly what we're doing, Richard, is building, launching, and learning from the whole process. So, well, Richard, you did mention building and launching, and that brings us directly into the role of technology. The Global Race for Sustainability is fundamentally a digital initiative. It relies on platforms, connectivity, and virtual participation to reach communities around the world. Well, Dong, how can digital platforms be used to build more inclusive approaches to global cooperation? And what does that look like in practice?
Um, Thank you, Cynthia. So I think the most important thing to recognize is that digital platforms have fundamentally changed who gets to participate in global conversations. So for most of history, meaningful participation in international affairs required such resources like the ability to travel, to attend conferences like what we're doing right now, to publish in academic journals, to navigate formal institutional channels. And that meant that participation was concentrated among people and communities who had already access to those resources. Digital platform breaks that open. So during our ISS discussions, many interns highlighted this potential. As intern Lian Kwang Zuli noted in our forums, the key question is about access, usage, and affordability across numerous countries and regions. So when we build a virtual race platform that anyone with a smartphone can join, we are not just creating a fitness event, we are creating a participation infrastructure. And we're saying that your voice matters, your community matters, and you don't need to be in New York or Vietnam to be a part of this conversation. So I believe there's like a new kind of multilateralism, I mean, one that is rooted in peer-to-peer connection and shared action in digital community rather than just exclusively state-in-state diplomacy.
Right. Thank you for that, Dong. Many telling points. Well, let's shift now over to Musa. Musa, I want to push on this a little bit. Because while digital platforms open doors, they also carry risks. So not everyone has reliable internet access, and not every community is equally represented in digital spaces. So how do we ensure that the promise of digital inclusion doesn't become another form of exclusion?
Thank you, Cynthia. And that is exactly the right question to ask. And I'm glad you pushed on it. So the danger with digital platforms is that if we aren't intentional, we end up building tools that primarily serve communities that are already well connected. And we inadvertently leave behind the communities that need global engagement the most. In our ISS internship forums, we had a really substantive conversation about this around SDG 9 industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And as intern Venkata Sai Charan Ramadugu pointed out, closing the digital divide helps those who have been left behind. Good infrastructure is the foundation for many of other goals. That insight is critical. If we want digital platforms to genuinely support global engagement, we cannot treat connectivity as given. We have to actively advocate for equitable access to technology. We have to design platforms that work. We have to actively advocate for equitable access to technology. We have to design platforms that work on low bandwidth connections. We have to partner with local organizations in underserved communities to ensure that grassroots voices from the global south are amplified, not marginalized. So in my opinion, overall, digital inclusion is not automatic. It requires the deliberate design choices, deliberate partnerships, and deliberate investment. If we get that right, digital platforms can be one of the most powerful tools for inclusive multilateralism we have ever had. If we get it wrong, we risk deepening the very inequalities we are trying to address.
So moving forward in that digital space with care and caution to make sure that they're inclusive spaces. Well, I want to take a moment to zoom out and think about the bigger picture. Let's look at the Pact for the Future. Of course, it was adopted at the Summit of the Future in September 24. It places a strong and explicit emphasis on youth engagement. It recognizes that young people are not just the beneficiaries of global policy, that they're essential partners in shaping it. So, Jennifer, based on your experience and discussions that you've had with your peers on the International Sibling Society Internship Program platforms, what unique perspective do young people bring to multilateral cooperation and more established institutions and voices sometimes miss? What can the digital platforms do that traditional routes fall short?
Thank you, Cynthia. I actually think about this a lot. So young people, I think, bring two things that are genuinely difficult to replicate. The first one is urgency. We're the ones who will live with the consequences of today's decisions for the longest time. When we talk about climate change or digital governance or economic inequality, we're not speaking abstractly about future generations. We're speaking about our own lives, our own careers, and our own communities. That creates a different kind of investment in getting these decisions right. The second is a different relationship with tools and technology. In our ISS discussions, we frequently talked about how our generation approaches problem solving. As intern Isabel Berkowitz stated in our forums, we're young and at the forefront of everything changing. Our generation is so incredibly talented, and it has been very cool to see what amazing things we've done using data science and machine learning to draw valuable and real insights. And that is not a boast, it's an observation about the moment that we're in. The tools available to young researchers and practitioners today are extraordinary. And young people are often the most fluent users of these tools. That fluency combined with our urgency means that youth doesn't just want to sit at the table to listen. We want to bring our skills, our data, and our innovate approaches to actively help solve these problems. The Pact for the Future recognizes that now institutions need to follow through on that recognition.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Well, Ryan, circling back to you, Jennifer just described what youth bring to the table, but there's a gap between recognizing youth contributions and actually integrating youth into decision making. How can traditional institutions move beyond symbolic youth engagement towards something more substantial?
Cynthia, this is something I feel very strongly about. Symbolic youth engagement, inviting a young person to speak at a conference or including a youth representative on a panel, is better than nothing. But it is not enough. It can actually be counterproductive if it creates the impression that youth voices are being heard when the underlying decision-making structures haven't changed at all. What real integration looks like is treating youth-generated data and grassroots findings as legitimate inputs into policy processes. It means creating a formal channels for civil society and youth organizations to contribute research, not just testimony. As my peer Abdullah Kebe asked directly in our ISS forums, we need to figure out what reforms to the United Nations system would help better integrate research findings into decision-making processes. The question deserves a real answer, not a ceremonial one. When initiatives like the Global Race generates data on community engagement, SDG awareness, and participation across 193 countries, that data should be valued by policymakers as a legitimate indicator of global progress. It is not anecdotal, it is evidence, and institutions that are serious about youth engagement need to treat it that way.
Well said, well said. And I know that people that are listening here in the audience, the conference participants, I know they're going to have some questions for you, Ryan, and the others. So we definitely want to open that up, and I look forward to hearing everybody justify what some of the questions that are going to be coming your way. But I do want us to move forward for a bit now that we've grounded our discussion in literally grounding our feet to the planet as we talk about how we're going about using our digital spaces and what impact the youth voices have on decision making. Let's take a closer look into the data itself. Okay, what are all of these data analysts up to? What are they finding out? So I want to call others to the roundtable discussion. We're going to, let's see, I want to introduce, well, actually, before we completely move out, Dong, I want you to just come on into this discussion as well. So Dong Fu Nguyen from James Madison University, I want to bring you in on this conversation about data. So also adding to it is one of our mentors in the program at Rohan Mohan from ISS, International Sibling Society. Also mentor Natalie Maduka from the International Sibling Society. In addition, let's bring in Chung Hao Wu from Carnegie Mellon and Anne Mary Shibu from the University of Arizona. So we're delighted that all of you are here, and we're going to explore this particular question. So how should we be measuring progress? Before we begin our discussion, I'd like to explain where today's ideas come from. So everything you hear today is grounded in research, not just personal opinions. Our findings come from hundreds of working group discussion posts written by more than 150 junior academics and young professionals participating in the ISS internship program. Most of the interns are data analysts, as we looked before, and their primary responsibility was and remains to analyze United Nations SDG data to help answer an important question. And that question is, how close or how far is humanity from achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030? And these interns have invested much time studying global databases, comparing trends, discussing their findings, and learning how data connects real-world policy decisions to everyday life. Their discussions became a rich source of qualitative research that helped us shape today's conversation. So one idea that appeared again and again throughout the discussion post was many reports describe countries as being either on track or off track, as we know. But our interns kept asking, is progress really that simple? Imagine you're climbing a mountain And you've already climbed about 80% of the way, but you're still not at the top. Would anyone say that your hard work doesn't count? Well, that's the question that we're going to explore today. Rather than asking only whether countries reach every target by 2030, perhaps we should also ask whether they're moving in the right direction and how quickly they're improving. And that's where we're going to begin. So our first question is about defining success. So Rowan, what do you think stood out most during the internship discussions on our platform?
First of all, thank you very much, Cynthia, for inviting me into this discussion. One thing that surprised many of us was that our interns weren't just interested in whether the countries reached a finish line. They wanted to understand whether meaningful progress was actually happening. When we looked at the data, we often found countries making enormous improvements. They were still labeled as off track. Imagine getting a 70 on your first math test and then an 88 on the next one, and you haven't gotten 100 yet, but you've made incredible progress, right? One of our fellow interns, I remember, Ryan, summed it up very well. He explained it that when he analyzes the Sustainable Development Goal datasets, he often sees countries making genuine progress. Yet the headlines reduce all of that work to simply being off track. Now, that made many of us wonder whether this is a simple pass or a fail label that tells the whole story, or a trajectory-based analysis encourages us to ask a different question. Are things getting better? Sometimes that question can teach us just as much, asking whether the destination has been already reached. And that's what we want to know.
All right, well, thank you, Rowan. That helps us explain why the journey itself matters. So Dawn, let's move to you. I'd like to hear what you have to say. What do you think focusing on progress is especially, or why do you think focusing on progress is especially important for young people?
Thank you, Cynthia, first. So I think young people naturally understand the big goals take time. Whether you're taking preparing for college, you're learning a new language, or just like practicing for a musical instrument, no one expects success overnight. And many interns in our discussion feel the same way about sustainable development goals. So they believe that partnerships, cooperation, and consistent improvement are what create lasting change. There used to be an intern that shared a thought that stayed with many of us. He said that showing progress alongside remaining challenges creates a more balanced conversation. And I totally agree with that. If young people only hear that everything is failing, they may wonder why they should stay involved. But if can clearly see what today's work is creating tomorrow's progress, it become more inspired to contributing. And progress gives people hope.
Thank you, Dawn. That's a wonderful transition to our next topic, because how we communicate progress also shapes how people think about international cooperation. Natalie, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you with us, Natalie?
Yes, I am.
There she is. Perfect. Okay. I absolutely think, well, actually, you tell us, you just start with your thoughts, Natalie. What is your takeaway at this moment in our roundtable?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Many interns actually, just like I and yourself, believe that communication really matters, and it surely does. And they told us that before joining the ISS internship program, they mostly saw charts, numbers, and statistics. But through the working groups, they began connecting those numbers to real people and real communities. One intern specifically, I remember Angela Liu, explained that data analysts sometimes spend so much time looking at data sets that it's easy to forget that there are people behind the numbers. So when we understand the stories behind the statistics, everything actually changes. If people constantly hear that the goals are failing, then they begin believing that international cooperation actually doesn't work. Yet, when we study long-term data, we often discover enormous improvements that happen because governments, universities, nonprofits, researchers, businesses, and communities have worked together. They've worked together really hard. So that's a much richer and more accurate way to present the story.
Thank you, Natalie. I tell you, let's move next. Shall we go back to Rowan? Or I tell you what, let's stay with Dong. So Dong, I think young people naturally understand that big goals take time. Whether you're learning a language, practicing a musical instrument, or preparing for college, no one expects success overnight. Many interns in our discussions felt the same way about the Sustainable Development Goals. They believe that partnerships, cooperation, and consistent movements are what create lasting change. One more intern named Musa, who we should bring into this conversation, has shared thoughts that stayed with many of us. Musa, here with us today, has said that showing progress alone remaining challenges creates more balanced conversation. And I think we'd all agree with that. If young people only hear that everything is failing, they may wonder why they should stay involved. But if they can clearly see that today's work is creating tomorrow's progress, they become inspired to keep contributing. So progress does give people hope. And I tell you, this just takes us to the great transition. We could even go back to Natalie if we want. Natalie, you reminded us that numbers become more meaningful when we understand the human story behind them earlier. Do you have, I just keep bouncing around. How about going to Chung Hao? How's that? Let's do that. So Chung Hao, how do you think trajectory-based reporting could influence public trust?
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. So I believe that trust depends on two things. First is people need to have the honest information, and second, they need information that feels meaningful. So trajectory-based reporting doesn't hide the problems. Instead, it provides the context. Imagine planting a tree. If someone checks the next morning and says, well, it's still not a full-grown tree, that is true, but it also missed the point. So growth actually takes time. If people can see steady progress, they are much more likely to stay encouraged and continue to support the work. So accountability and the encouragement can exist together.
Thank you, Chung Hao. That brings us naturally to another important question, technology. So technology is changing how we analyze enormous amounts of information. Anne, how can technology help us better understand sustainable development?
Thank you, Cynthia, for that question. I think it's a really good question to ask with how much technology has evolved throughout all these years, right? So to answer the question, I think technology completely changed the way we understand sustainable development. Like if we look back like a few decades, collecting, analyzing, and visualizing large amounts of data was incredibly time consuming. But look at what's happening like right now, today. We can analyze years, maybe even decades of information more and more efficiently. And we can compare countries. If we want, we can identify long-term trends. We can create interactive visualization. We can uncover patterns that earlier generations simply didn't have the access to or the tools to. So during our discussion in the internship program, many interns were actually talking about the role of AI. And we were talking about how AI and machine learning can help researchers identify connections that traditional methods sometimes might miss. So, for example, one of our intern, Isabel, she was sharing how machine learning actually can help researchers find better approaches to reducing chronic diseases and improving public health outcomes. How amazing is that? How technology can do so much. And of course, when people hear about AI, there is concerns about jobs being taken away, automation, and those concerns are understandable from a human level. But I think there is another perspective we can look at as well, which is like AI can also give us better tools to understand complex information and maybe break down different scenarios and make us more informed, help us make more informed decisions. At the same time, technology should support human understanding, not replace it. See, data and technology are incredibly powerful. Throughout the years, we have heard technology is a double-edged sword. Of course it is. Similarly, AI is part of that. It is also a double-edged sword, but it depends on which edge that you want to use. If you are like trying to completely remove the whole thinking process, and if you're trying to use AI for every single thing in your life, of course you are not using the correct edge. So, especially in this era, I think thoughtful interpretation still matters. If you're taking anything in this conversation, I think this is what you should take with you because it's really important in an era of AI. And I think that's really a balance we should aim for using technology not just to collect more data, but to understand our world more clearly and make better decisions for our future. Thank you, and I'm going to pass it back to you, Cynthia.
Well said, well said. Technology does give us remarkable new opportunities, but thoughtful interpretations remain essential, as you pointed out. Rowan, let's bring you back into the discussion. You and other ISS mentors spent much time exploring newer AI technologies and platforms with interns in our program. How do you think AI and advanced analytics will change the future of Sustainable Development Goal reporting?
Thank you again, Cynthia. I think the biggest change is that we will stop asking only one question. Did this country reach the goal or not? Instead, we can ask several better questions. How quickly is the country improving? Which ideas seem to be working the best? Which particular regions are making the fastest progress? Which successful strategies could other countries learn from? These are questions which tell a much richer story. Instead of looking at only the final score, we are beginning to understand the entire game now. And that's exactly what evidence-based policymaking should be. And that's what I believe.
Thank you, Rowan. Our conversation has focused on data, but ultimately these discussions are about people. So let's turn now to the role of young researchers. Dong, moving back to you, why do you think so many students are interested in connecting research with action?
Thank you, Cynthia. I believe that like research is nothing without action. So one thing our working groups show very clearly is that today's students like they don't think in separate boxes anymore. When they study health, they also think about education, or like when they study technology, they think about ethics. When they study poverty, they also think about opportunity. And the SDG encourages this kind of system thinking. Our discussions show that young researchers understand that solving global problems requires collaboration among many different fields, and no one solves these challenges alone.
Well, thank you for that, Dong. That leads perfectly to our final panel question. And Natalie, circling back to you, what unique strengths do young people bring to international cooperation?
Well, thank you, Cynthia, for that question. I think young people bring two important strengths. The first one is young people bring new analytical tools, like we've heard from the previous panelists. Second, young people also bring new ways of telling stories. So many young researchers are very, very comfortable using artificial intelligence, machine learning, dashboards, maps, and interactive visualizations, which is a plus for us. So additionally, these tools also help us understand large amounts of information much faster. But we must remember that data alone isn't enough. Behind every number is a person. Behind every statistic is a family, a community, or a child whose life has changed. So storytelling helps us connect those numbers to real experiences. One intern, Kayla, described our internship as an opportunity to connect our daily work with larger international goals. So what does that mean? I think in general, that's exactly what young people contribute. They connect data with people and they connect research with actions. And hopefully we inspire others to do the same. Back to you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Natalie. You've reminded us that the future of sustainable development depends not only on better data, but also better communication. We do want to kind of bring all of these discussions to a nice resting point. And before we kind of tap off into questions, so just like in the spirit of a final round, let's conclude by asking each panelist one final question. And that is, in one sentence, what is the single most important idea you'd like everyone to remember today? What takeaway do you want to leave with those listening? Let's start with Chung Hao Wu.
Yeah, so I would say progress deserves to be measured, not just the finish line.
Thank you, Chung Hao. Anne, what about you?
I would say good data should serve as a compass for where we need to go and a reminder of how far we have come.
Okay. Natalie, what about you?
On my part, I would say we can be honest about challenges while still celebrating meaningful progress.
Okay, well said. Dong Fu Nguyen, what about you?
My takeaway will be partnerships help create progress even when the journey isn't finished.
Great reflections. And Rowan, let's close with your remarks.
Okay, this is something which I have taken as a take-home message, and I hope it sticks with the audience as well. It is that the direction we are moving may be just as important as the destination we are trying to reach.
Yes. Direction, trajectory-based data. All right. Well, thanks to all our panelists and the audience, and of course, Akuns, especially for, and especially the more than 150 International Sibling Society interns who thoughtfully provided all the data for this through their working group discussions that made today's conversation possible. So their discussions reminded us that data is much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It represents real people, real communities, and real opportunities to improve lives. Their work also reminds us that measuring progress is more than deciding whether humanity is simply on track or off track. Perhaps the better question is this: are we moving in the right direction? Just as Rowan was just capping off for us. If the answer is yes, then our responsibility is to learn from that progress, build stronger partnerships, improve our policies, and keep moving forward together. So I want to thank you very much for participating on the roundtable and in the conversation. And we want to further that conversation and open up for questions. Do we have any questions from anyone? Any questions about
One question which I had to the previous panel, which I wanted to understand is what role should probably the civil society, and we are seeing this play out in our lives as well. What role should the civil society play in rebuilding trust? Because it's the trust which is eroding in multilateral institutions these days. What should that be?
I could go ahead and try to answer that question for you. So, first of all, thank you for that question. I believe civil society has a unique role because it operates where trust is built every day within communities, governments, international institutions, and this is essential for setting policy and I guess mobilizing resources. But civil society organizations are often the ones that are listening for people's concerns, understanding local realities, and turning global commitment into tangible action. Trust is built where people see their voices matter and that their participation leads to real change. Grassroots organizations are especially important because they don't just speak on behalf of communities, they work alongside them. They create opportunities for people to become part of the solution rather than simply being, I guess, a beneficiary of it. And at the same time, trust is kind of a two-way relationship. Civil society has a responsibility to be transparent, accountable, and I guess also inclusive. While it ensures it truly represents, I guess, the community that it serves. Likewise, multilateral institutions must create meaningful opportunities for civil society to contribute, not just through consultation, but through genuine partnership in shaping and implementing solutions.
Thank you,
I hope that
Ryan.
answers your question. Thank you. Thank you.
Good answer.
Right. Are there any questions from that anyone else would like to bring up and for the group?
I guess I could ask a question for our second panel here. My question is, can a country still be considered successful if it makes extraordinary progress but falls short on its 2030 goals?
It's a brilliant question, and I think I should shed some light on it. We were doing this analysis from a perspective, and I can cite an example from my own home country in Kerala. During the COVID wave, it was one state of the country which was discovering more cases, and it was getting labeled as the state which has the worst problem. Actually, it had the best healthcare mechanism, and hence it was discovering the problem at the initial stages itself, and hence it was treating the problem well. That circles back to your question that once we label a country as not on point or off label, off track, it becomes very difficult to see the progress that has actually been made. Different countries are at different levels of resourcing. And we should not undermine the fact that they are starting at a very different starting point from where they are as compared to a developing nation. So when we have to measure the actual progress made by a country, it's how much they have changed the delta, how much needle they have moved, how much progress they have made. That is a bigger inspiration and a better measure of progress than just labeling a country that has probably been at the goal or not on the goal. That's a good binary analysis for making a final point. But if we want to make a nuanced analysis, if you want to see, and this is not an end goal, we are going to continue to the next 2030 or even beyond. We need to make progress, and we need to inspire and motivate the other countries who have actually made progress and say, okay, you started from a very low baseline, but you've made maximum progress. Keep doing the good work. And that's how we have to measure it.
Wow, thank you very much. That was a great answer.
I'll just bring our attention to the time. We have plenty more time for some questions and just open dialogue about all the topics that we discussed. So feel free to just interrupt in conversation. We'll just have this as an open roundtable with everyone in the room. So feel free to just chime in. You're welcome to come off mic and add to the conversation. And just as a little toss up and adding to the conversation, which is we have approximately 30 more minutes left, then I would simply want to know what your experiences are in the program, in the internship, the data analytics internship, where you're crunching the numbers on UN data targets in relation to the year 2030 finish line. What questions and what inputs, not questions, but what is your personal reflections on those? And that would be for anyone in the internship program. What's your experience has been crunching the data?
Hi, Cynthia. So when I was working with the data, something that I noticed was what we discussed throughout this conversation, which is, of course, there is so much progress. But I was looking into a lens of how much far we have, what are the problems that we are still continuing to face, and things like that, rather than thinking how much we have improved so much. So hearing all these conversations made me understand that we have to change our perspective a little bit to see how much progress we have made. And I feel like statistics is a really amazing way of presenting a person's or like an entire story. For example, like when we crunch these numbers, this whole big raw data into just one proportion of like this much percentage has improved, this much. It's just amazing how people can just look at that number and identify, okay, so this is making progress. This is whatever is happening around us, right? So I feel like which was really fascinating for me because um, even with statistics, we can conclude things like a basketball player, what he has been doing for 18 years of his career. We are just saying this is his batting average. Like in just number, we are crunching it all together, which is like really amazing. That's one of the thing that I have noted. Another thing was visualization, basically storytelling, which was amazing because we have all this data. There is so much technical things behind that. But of course, when we want to help people, it's always about storytelling. It's always taking people's story and conveying it to other people to understand what they are going through, what is happening in a particular country, in a particular state, maybe even in a particular region in that state. Because whenever we compare countries, what happens is we just see the whole, just like the luxurious part of it. We don't see the people who are struggling. They might be left behind these data, behind these numbers. So that was also amazing how we can shine light upon those kinds of things as well. Yeah, that's what my insights are. Thank you.
You mentioned storytelling and that being a large part of the data. What kind of story did your data tell?
In my particular case, I was working with the data on SDG 5 in my home state, which was Kerala in India. I was talking about gender inequality in workplaces, how much we are doing very good in every other SDGs. One of the best, I would say, one of the best state among India, like which is doing very good in every other SDG was India, but in this specific goal, which is workplace inequality, we were doing not that good. So I was just wondering why, since we are so developed, since we are getting to a place with very high good education, but why the workforce barrier is still there, that gap is still there, which was really fascinating to think about because we always thought education improves the work life, like the work culture. It brings women or it brings people who are being set back to the workplace to the friend role, right? But in my research, it just showed the opposite. The education really didn't impact that much with bringing people to the workforce. So I feel like there was much work that was needed to done there, and it always turns back to this fact that causation is not always equal to correlation, meaning two variables we might think, okay, this looks kind of it's going in the same direction, so it might be like this might be causing this, right? But when we look deeper into it, so that's why we should never conclude things by just looking at the data for first time. We should like really look through it. We should really research it more. So yeah, that's what I worked with, and telling the story really connected with many other women who said that somewhere along the way after graduating and getting into a job market, they lost somewhere in between. It was different factors like marital expectations. Then there were factors like wage gaps and things like that. Yeah, so it was amazing how people reached out to me and said, "Oh, I can connect with that. I can understand what you're saying." And it was really amazing how people can feel like that they are in this loop all together. We are doing this all together, right? So yeah.
And then, Anne, you not only explained your story through data, and of course, orated your story, which is a lot of what we talk and we encourage and provide the platform for young practitioners to do, is to orate their story, orate their data. But you even took it a step farther and you used newer technologies to create visuals that, well, tell us about your visual. Tell us about that young lady that you created.
Yeah. So the tool I used was Gemini for sure, to create an image that I had in my mind of the problems that the woman is facing and why they are not being able to get to that place or workplace, right? So it was just an image showing a woman with a cooking ladle on one hand and a degree on the other hand, looking through the window to see a big corporate office that she might not be able to enter in. So I had this idea of somehow this whole image crunches all this whole story into just, people can look at it and understand the aspect of it. Oh, this is what's going on, right? So I feel like I couldn't find a picture that like that online. So Gemini really helped me to create something that I had in my mind, which is also amazing how these AI tools are. I also talked about that, how AI tools are coming in and how we can use it to make many amazing things and these fascinating things, and simplify things, maybe I would say, so it consumes our time a little bit lesser compared to how much time it takes us to create something from scratch. But there is a balance, of course. You have to learn that too. So yeah, that's the images that I was able to produce, and I researched about it and I saw a story and I was able to incorporate that into my dashboard. So I feel like those are the things that are eye-catching for the audience, for them to just sit there and see, oh, it's interesting. What is she talking about? Let's look at that. So I think that's a really amazing part of visual storytelling in data analysis. Yeah.
Well, we at the International Sibling Society were definitely, since November of 2024, for whatever reason, I'm sorry, November of 2025, we have been bombarded with people wanting to be in the program as data analytics or data analysis, data analytic interns, just really wanting to build their skills in data analytics. And so we have definitely tried to meet that demand and scale up, and here we are today. But a large part of what we do is not just how to use these tools and help build portfolios to take into the professional world as data analysts, working on real world problems. But we're also addressing something that the Sustainable Development Goals get a bad rap on all the time, which is they're difficult to understand. They're too darn cerebral, and it doesn't translate as well, and it's difficult to explain. So we're constantly pulling and steering by everyone into being able to explain your data in ways and means that people will understand it and connect to it and have a personal connection to it. And results become more aware of what the Sustainable Development Goals are, what their targets are, what they're trying to achieve as humanity. And with that, moving step by step, literally forward to the finish line of 2030. So thank you for that. And we have other just amazing research projects represented in the room. And of course, I know who's working on what. Could some of you volunteer? I'd hate to just point you out, but you know I can do it. So what is the data project that you're working on, and what can you tell us about it in this moment?
I would be happy to jump in.
Okay.
So the project that I'm currently working on is relating to SDG 6, clean water and treatment. And my focus was generally on 7 countries, and one of those countries is my home country of Morocco. And I did learn a lot from looking at the data from this SDG, not just trying to take the raw data and getting something out of it, but actually trying to get my real life experiences and trying to relay them on that data and see what resonates and what vibrates away from it so I can create an entire story. Because I'm currently in Morocco right now, sitting in my room. Sometimes, especially after 10 p.m., water cuts off in my small city every single day for the past, I believe, 3 years. And I never realized, why is that a thing? Like I would also always like blame it on a politician or blame it on some kind of issue with the water supply or something like that. But when I looked at the data, I realized that there are a lot of factors into just, for example, getting clean water in our houses. It's not as simple as getting water from a river or just cleaning water from a reserve or something like that. It takes a lot of power, a lot of energy, a lot of politics, and it's an entire cycle. It's not just a line from point A to point B, but it's a cycle that has multiple lines, A, B, C, D, E, and it just goes around again and again and again. And it's so fascinating to just look at that data and compare it to real life and see what other countries do. Like, for example, India did such amazing things with their sanitation and getting clean water and getting to clean that water, how they treat it after that water is being used, which is also a really important part that Morocco is missing out on.
Mhm.
And Dong, Chung Hao, Jennifer, I know you guys have got some good projects. I kind of want to nudge Musa a little bit, though. Musa is in data analytics also, but he has gotten the bug of building stuff. All right, and so I know we have we have a lot of data analysts, over 150 as we've looked at, but we have about 15 platform developers, and a lot of our big group of 180 something like to go tinker in the platform development working group. So I know Musa is testing out those waters over there and has proposed some ambitious builds. So we'd love to hear more about what you're interested in working on and building, because I believe Platform Development Working Group is presenting before the ISS General Council, our General Assembly, this Thursday. So I don't know if you're going to be in those presentations or not, but Musa, can you tell us a little bit about your build and what you're looking into?
Yes, sure. So outside of this project, I'm also working on, I'm interested in building a data for transportation and logistics analytics. So transportation is something people often don't think about, but it's essential to how our world functions. Everyday goods like food, medicine, and essential supplies are moved across countries, and data plays a huge role in making that process more efficient and reliable. So there are some situations, for example, when the drivers, for example, on the road for 12 hours, 16 hours. So if we make a technical improvement with working with the data about this, there might be some reducing risks that something might happen on the road. So I'm working on analyzing transportation data such as delivery performance, road efficiency, fuel consumptions, and operational trends to identify opportunities for improvement. Even small insights can help reduce delays, lower fuel usage, optimize routes, and improve overall efficiency. Those improvements not only benefit businesses, but can also support broader goals like reducing emissions, minimizing waste, and building more sustainable transportation systems. So I'm considered in California rules, for example, they have some systems, they are called CARB systems. It's a when, for example, vehicles, they should drive in California without a toxic usage to the environment. And in California, they have such rules. So I want to integrate this. I want to analyze, and maybe in the future, I want to help spread out this useful and important rule also to other states. So when, for example, large vehicles are moving, they should not consume environment with bad toxic gas. And so that's what I'm working on.
Excellent. Excellent. Very, very, very interesting, ambitious. I'm also thinking, Dong, correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't you been about to present before the ISS General Assembly like for 2 weeks now? And the list is long and we haven't gotten there yet. Am I right?
Yes.
What are you working on? What does the
Yeah.
General Assembly have to look forward to as soon as we can?
Well, actually,
Before
I have prepared like my presentation like in the last 2 weeks, and seems that we didn't have like enough time for like everyone to present their work. But I know that like everyone like they all want to like present their findings and stuff, and I also have my own stuff. So yeah, well, the SDG that I'm working on is SDG 3. It's about health and like well-being. It's just personally because I just really into like fitness, so I care about like the diet and also like being healthy. So that's why I chose that one. And the one I'm working on specifically is about like tobacco use prevalence across Southeast Asian countries. Because Vietnam, like the country where I'm from, specifically is like one of like the top Southeast like Asian countries that consume like tobacco a lot. But tobacco, like it has like many types. It's just not about like tobacco. Like it got cigarettes as well, and like another like a lot of stuff. So yeah, but I'm ready to present like next week if I got a chance to do it.
Excellent. We're looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. Rowan, as you work with you have a whole team of data analysts that you're working with, young emerging data analysts. What can you tell us about what you're seeing in your group and maybe some growth that you've seen along the way?
There are two things. One, individually they are growing, and as a collective, they are learning from each other. So that's one of the best things, that whenever a team comes together and they have a single purpose of doing it, they achieve objectives which are better than the sum of the parts. So that's what I've observed. The team is pretty diverse. We have somebody who is from the petroleum engineering background, who brings a perspective of how methane emissions have an impact in his own country, and the soil is sinking and it's going below sea level. That's a very different project from being talking on healthcare access to people who have the resources but not sufficient medicines in many of the countries. So there are multiple projects, but everybody, when they come and learn on a platform like ISS, one beautiful thing is it provides an opportunity to break barriers and say, let me learn from the other person in terms of his perspective on a different project altogether, a different dimension, a different area of learning. It also brings about a new kind of tool that they have learned. I'm amazed to see that traditionally we are brought up as data analysts on learning Tableau, Power BI, the regular resources, but ISS pushed us towards learning new tools like Julius or Camel AI, and many of the mentors were able to be presenting to these. So it added a lot of dimensionality to the entire process of being able to use AI, which is a current tool. In an academic setup, you will never learn these new tools. So many of these were able to come abreast to the new situations, learning new tools and new areas which they were never exposed to. One beautiful thing about ISS internship is something that I've realized is if you're interning at an organization which is different from ISS, they have their pet project, which is going to eventually lead to commercial implications for their own benefit. At ISS, the interns get to choose their own projects, which means they work on projects which they are passionate about. That brings a completely different level of involvement because they know these things are important to me as a person, maybe as a group of people who belong to a particular community, a particular nation. And the level of commitment that they bring to the project is phenomenal. They attend meetings the discussions are very richer, very nuanced, and the perspectives are very different, yet they collaborate on a project. So that's beautiful that I have observed. In my home country, there's an organization called as Tatas, which is a very old legacy organization which talks about years of legacy and culture. But they have appointed something called as a reverse intern, which means a 26-year-old person is interning the CEO who's 56-year-old. That is something that is my personal experience, that I am getting to reflect upon how youth thinks about, how I get to see the other side of things, and what are the capabilities that AI being available to youth, they are going to use it. So that's a phenomenal learning as a personal involvement, as a group. It has been very enriching.
Very much so. Jennifer, can you tell us anything about what you're working on? I kind of see you behind the black screen. I don't know if you're completely with us at this moment. Are you there, Jennifer? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us what your data project and everything, what you're working on with the data and the SDG target?
Yes. My project was on SDG 3. It's the good health and well-being. And my project, like the title, is healthcare spending and life expectancy. So like I basically like examined like global health outcomes. Like I used the World Bank data. So I want to know like to what extent is healthcare expenditure associated with like how people can live longer lives. And also looked into like countries that are like did unexpectedly like better than I thought, and like some countries that I thought they have, judging from their like GDP and stuff like that, I thought they're gonna do a really good job, but they actually didn't. So, and I made some visualizations and like did some research on that, and that's what I've been working on.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Chin Wu, could you tell us, Chin, what project you're working on? Yes.
Yeah, so I'm currently working on the analysis of the global threats in the research and development expenditure and their connection to the SDG 9, which is the industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So my my research question for this phase is like how do the R&D investment levels and recent threats differ across the countries? So I did a bunch of the analysis about like how these data are different comparing to each country and in different year from the 2090 to 2024. So just jump to the conclusion that so some country do have like a very high cost on the technology and the research, but for the increasement of the investment, they are not the same country that they since some country may already invest a lot, so they maybe not keep investing for the research, but some country they just begin to invest, so the amount of money they spend will be a lot from the data. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm working on for this phase. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I know that there's two individuals here that have been with us for a long time, were with the baseline group, the first big structured research group, and that's Danithi and Richard. So I tell you, let's start with you, Richard. What's your takeaway, or what have you seen since the beginning of your time with us and where we're at now?
Oh yeah, so that has been an interesting journey, in my opinion. I've seen us kind of just growing a little bit. We were kind of just it's just like a culmination of many things happening at once. Like you get to see the platform develop over time, and then you see new people come in with their new ideas and perspectives on things, and it kind of fleshes out a lot of what we're trying to do. And as you mentioned, we have all these new tools now that we can use that further enhances the processes that we're trying to take on. And the goal, like all this stuff allows us to better tell us the stories and communicate ideas we need to show the world. And I think that it's because of all the work that we've been doing at ISS and seeing how that's been growing over time. It's really leading us to a better position to helping the world reach these SDG goals.
Excellent. Danithi, do you have something to add to that? What's your reflections been?
Yeah, so basically, after joining the ISS back in January, I've seen tremendous growth. However, I've seen that this summer internship has been more collaborative, especially because it's more structured than it was during our spring semester. Because our spring semester only had those Tuesday working groups and then just the general assembly on Thursdays. However, now we get to collaborate with interns and mentors who we have not met. We get to meet new people, hear about their experiences, learn about like the SDGs that are ongoing in their countries and how they're progressing. And I think the major development that we have made that we did not have in the spring is establishing a method of communication.
Yeah. Our platform was it's kind of grown with us.
Yeah.
As well. And then Anne, you have you've been here with us for quite some time, and we do the first semester Anne was let's say the intern that made it to the mic. Okay, so we want to look at the data, we want to share with the world what we found out. But we want to be able to speak it too, and we want to be able to share the message and share what's going on. And so Anne has been an excellent spokesperson for that. And so I will attest to tremendous growth that just with Anne through last semester and how she is has we've seen her grow into an excellent orator, excellent speaker. So anything you want to add to what you've seen in the programs during your time?
Yeah, I think they both covered most of the things. And to add, yes, of course, I feel like ISS. So I am new to USA. It's only been like almost 2 years I've been here. So as you know, English is not my mother tongue. When I first moved here, it was so hard for me to like talk so confidently and everything. But I feel like I always had this passion to talk about things that I really care about. And I feel like ISS gave me like a platform to do that. It improves my confidence over time, and even I can see a difference in how where I was when I started and where I am right now. And I think if anyone would take up the mic and just use that opportunity, I think anyone can grow much better from where you are right now. So it's just the first step that's harder, but like it gets much and much easier as you go along. And yeah, I think ISIS gave me an opportunity to do that, and I was able to grow so much during this time. Yes.
Excellent. Well, we're kind of coming to our close at the end of our time here, and I put on our platform, and we call our platform the Pulse. So we're running a race, or we're getting our heart rate up, we're checking in. So we say check the pulse every day, check the data every day. So we call our platform the Pulse, and of course it's built on our traditional domain. Thank you, Google, all Google. Which is issnow.earth. And once you, but with all this new architecture built now, you have new locations that come before issnow.earth, and that is a platform called the Pulse. We also have in our ecosystem of spaces. We have the race at issnow.earth. So I'm going to slip that in the chat. And one thing that's neat about our race platform is that you can see exactly what we're doing. 193 UN member countries running, sign up to run to keep the momentum fresh, because we do have, although we say as data analyst, we say 2030 is right around the corner. And actually, in the world of running a lot, it's a kind of a long stretch if we're running constantly between now and 2030, right? So to spice it up a little bit, we added cycling this year. So I know where I live and am about, we have the bike shares that are available down on the street, and you can hop on a bike, and they're absolutely wonderful. And adding bikes to the race have really increased the longevity. You know, we're able to continue moving forward with the help of some bikes. But also we have in our strategic planning, we're adding a new sport every year. So, and that's also, you can look at that on the race and go down and see what the annual, which sport we're adding each year, from swimming next year, bundling it together, triathlon the next, and then bringing on ocean sports in 2029. And then the grand finish line and crescendo there is in the year 2030. We're going to offer up a new sport based on a community vote and community input. So we do encourage you to go to the race, register. We won't know you're participating in the global race for sustainability unless you let us know. So go register for the race, choose your country team. And you can also scroll down that lovely, lovely space and see about in the middle the intern media prep kits that gets you ready to talk about it and spread the word. So everything we have right there on our platform at race.issnow.org. So we encourage you to go there. Are there any final thoughts before we depart this space, depart the Academic Council of the United Nations System Conference? Any parting words?
Cynthia, thank you so much for organizing this so beautifully and also giving us a chance to step up and do this. It's all you behind this. And thank you so much for supporting us through all of this. Thank you. Yeah.
And with that, I'll say thanks to the Academic Council of the United Nations System. We enjoy being here very much, and see you all in the future. Have a great day.
Thank you, Cynthia. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you,
Thank
Cynthia.
you, Cynthia.
Thank you. Bye.